What is difference between microeconomics versus macroeconomics? Economics is divided into two categories, microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics is the study of individuals and business decisions, while macroeconomics looks at the decisions of countries and governments. Microeconomics is the study of decisions made by people and businesses regarding the allocation of resources and prices at which they trade goods and services. It considers taxes, regulations, and government legislation. Microeconomics focuses on supply and demand and other forces that determine price levels in the economy. It takes a bottom-up approach to analyzing the economy. In other words, microeconomics tries to understand human choices, decisions, and the allocation of resources. Having said that, microeconomics does not try to answer or explain what forces should take place in a market. Rather, it tries to explain what happens when there are changes in certain conditions. For example, microeconomics examines how a company could maximize its production and capacity so that it could lower prices and better compete. A lot of microeconomic information can be gleaned from company financial statements. What is macroeconomics? Macroeconomics is a branch of economics that studies how an overall economy, the markets, businesses, consumers, and governments behave. Macroeconomics examines economy-wide phenomena such as inflation, price levels, rate of economic growth, national income, gross domestic product, GDP, and changes in unemployment. Some of the key questions addressed by macroeconomics include: what causes unemployment? What causes inflation? What creates or stimulates economic growth? Macroeconomics attempts to measure how well an economy is performing, understand what forces drive it, and project how performance can improve. Macroeconomics versus microeconomics. Macroeconomics differs from microeconomics, which focuses on smaller factors that affect choices made by individuals and companies. Factors studied in both microeconomics and macroeconomics typically influence one another. A key distinction between micro and macroeconomics is that macroeconomic aggregates can sometimes behave in very different ways or even the opposite of similar microeconomic variables. For example, Keynes referenced the so-called paradox of thrift, which argues that individuals save money to build wealth, micro. However, when everyone tries to increase their savings at once, it can contribute to a slowdown in the economy and less wealth in the aggregate, macro. This is because there would be a reduction in spending, affecting business revenues and lowering worker pay. Limits of macroeconomics. It is also important to understand the limitations of economic theory. Theories are often created in a vacuum and lack specific real-world details like taxation, regulation, and transaction costs. The real world is also decidedly complicated and includes matters of social preference and conscience that do not lend themselves to mathematical analysis. Even with the limits of economic theory, it is important and worthwhile to follow significant macroeconomic indicators like GDP, inflation, and unemployment. This is because the performance of companies, and by extension their stocks, is significantly influenced by the economic conditions in which the companies operate. Don't forget, my friend. Subscribe and share comments.